Hi everyone. Welcome back to Etymology Explorer. In this video, we will explore etymology of the term nihilism, its origins, the development of the term itself, its philosophical evolution over time, and its core message. Nihilism is a philosophical perspective that argues life lacks objective meaning, purpose, or intrinsic value. It often involves skepticism towards knowledge, truth, morality, and religious or metaphysical beliefs. Nihilism can take many forms, including existential nihilism, denying inherent meaning in life, moral nihilism, denying absolute moral principles, and epistemological nihilism, rejecting objective knowledge. Etymology and linguistic journey. The etymology of nihilism is deeply connected to the Latin term nihilum, which means nothing or not anything. Understanding how this term evolved linguistically and philosophically helps clarify the concept of nihilism. The Latin root, nihilum. The word nihilum itself is a combination of ne, not, and hilum, which originally meant a tiny thing, a speck, or a trifle. Over time, nihilum came to mean absolute nothingness, not even a small amount of something. This concept of nothingness was significant in Roman philosophy and Christian theology, where it played a role in discussions about creation ex nihilo, creation from nothing, and metaphysical voids. Transition into medieval and early modern thought. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, nihilum was used in theological and philosophical contexts. Christian scholasticism, theologians like Thomas Aquinas used nihilum when discussing creation ex nihilo, emphasizing that without divine intervention, existence would revert to nothing. Renaissance skepticism. Thinkers like Michel de Montaigne began using nihil in a more skeptical, philosophical sense, questioning whether we can truly know anything. French and German adaptations. In French, nihilism began to appear in intellectual discussions, often tied to radical skepticism about truth and meaning. In German, nihilismus was used in philosophical debates by Friedrich Jacobi and later by Nietzsche to describe the collapse of absolute values. English adoption and modern meaning. By the 19th century, nihilism had taken on both philosophical and political meanings. Philosophically, it described the rejection of inherent meaning in life, Nietzsche, Schopenhauer. Politically, it became associated with Russian radicals who rejected all forms of authority, as seen in Turgenev's Fathers and Sons. How did nihilum shape nihilism? The concept of nihilum, nothingness, remains central to nihilism in several ways. Epistemological nihilism. We can know nothing for certain. Moral nihilism. No moral truths exist. Morality is nothing but a human construct. Existential nihilism. Life has no inherent meaning. Existence emerges from nothing and returns to nothing. Thus, nihilism, in all its forms, inherits its foundational idea from nihilum, that at the core of existence, there is nothing absolute, fixed, or certain. How does nihil relate to nihilum? Nihil is essentially a shortened form or contraction of nihilum. This type of linguistic simplification is common in Latin, where shorter forms of words often emerge over time for ease of use. Grammatical evolution. Nihilum is the neuter singular nominative form, fully expressing the idea of nothingness. Nihil is a contracted form that became more commonly used in both classical and medieval Latin. Use in Latin texts. Nihilum was used in more formal or philosophical contexts to emphasize absolute nothingness. Nihil became the more common word for nothing in everyday Latin speech and writing. For example, ex nihilo nihil fit. From nothing, nothing comes. Common philosophical phrase. Since nihilism is fundamentally about negation, emptiness, or the absence of inherent meaning, the word nihil serves as a fitting root. It expresses the idea of nothing in a direct and forceful way, making it a powerful term when used to describe a philosophical stance. Thinkers and spread of nihilism. Several philosophers and writers have shaped nihilism. Friedrich Heinrich Jacobi, 18th century, used the term nihilism in response to rationalist philosophy, particularly Immanuel Kant and Baruch Spinoza. Ivan Turgenev, 1862. His novel Fathers and Sons introduced the term nihilist as a rejection of authority, tradition, and religious belief. Friedrich Nietzsche, 19th century, developed the concept of nihilism in depth, describing it as both a problem and an opportunity for revaluation of values. His death of God concept signified the collapse of traditional meaning structures. Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, 20th century, engaged with nihilism through existentialism, exploring the search for meaning in an indifferent universe. Max Stirner, an early influence on existential and nihilist thought, emphasizing radical individualism. Core message and influences. Nihilism has influenced various fields. Philosophy challenges metaphysics, morality, and epistemology. Influences postmodernism and existentialism. Politics. In Russia, nihilism was associated with radical movements rejecting religious and political authority. Literature. Existentialist and absurdist literature often grapples with nihilist themes, for example, Dostoevsky's Demons, Camus' The Stranger. Psychology. Links to existential despair and anomie, influencing thinkers like Viktor Frankl. Popular culture, reflected in films, for example, The Big Lebowski, literature, and even music, for example, punk and black metal. Nihilism is often misunderstood as leading directly to anarchy or destruction, but its relationship with political and social structures is more complex. Let's break it down. The question is whether or not nihilism results in anarchy. The answer is not necessarily. While nihilism rejects absolute values, laws, or meanings, this does not mean it directly leads to political anarchy, a state without government or order. However, there are historical and philosophical connections. Russian nihilism and political anarchy. In 19th century Russia, nihilism became associated with radical political movements that rejected religious, moral, and social authority. Some nihilists, like Sergei Nechayev, argued for revolutionary violence to destroy existing institutions. Fyodor Dostoevsky's novel Demons critiques this extreme form of nihilism. Nietzsche's perspective. Nietzsche saw nihilism as dangerous but also as an opportunity for renewal. He warned against passive nihilism, despair and meaninglessness leading to apathy, and encouraged active nihilism, destroying outdated values to create new ones. This could be seen as revolutionary but not necessarily anarchic. Philosophical versus political nihilism. Philosophical nihilism deals with meaning, truth, and morality. It does not demand political action. Political nihilism can be used to justify anarchic or revolutionary movements, but also passive withdrawal from politics altogether. So, while nihilism can be linked to anarchy in some cases, it does not automatically lead to it. Some nihilists see no reason to engage in politics, while others see it as an excuse to reject all authority. Another question is whether nihilism is just a personal life philosophy or a structured doctrine. The answer is that nihilism is more of a philosophical tendency than a structured doctrine. Unlike ideologies like communism or liberalism, nihilism does not have a strict set of rules or goals. However, it has developed into different types of nihilism, which have been explored systematically in philosophy. Existential nihilism. Life has no intrinsic meaning or value. A person must either accept this or create their own meaning. Moral nihilism. No objective moral values exist. Morality is a human construct. Epistemological nihilism. Knowledge and truth are ultimately unknowable. Political nihilism. All political and social structures are meaningless and should be rejected. Cosmic nihilism. The universe is indifferent to human existence, making all endeavors ultimately futile. Some nihilists, like Nietzsche, engaged with nihilism as a temporary phase that could lead to the creation of new values, Overman concept. Others, like Camus, argued that we should rebel against nihilism by embracing the absurdity of life, the myth of Sisyphus. Unlike existentialism or Marxism, nihilism does not provide a framework for action. It describes a state of being rather than a clear path forward. Yet another question is what nihilism can be used for. The answer is that nihilism itself is not a tool but a perspective. However, it has influenced several areas. Philosophy and ethics. Challenges dogmatic beliefs, forcing people to question assumptions. Helps deconstruct outdated moral, religious, or social norms. Inspires postmodernism, which critiques the idea of objective truth. Politics and social change. Can lead to revolutionary movements, as seen in Russian nihilism. Can also justify apathy and disengagement from politics. Some anarchist movements draw from nihilist ideas to reject oppressive structures. Art and literature. Found in existentialist works, Dostoevsky, Camus, and Kafka. Inspires modern and postmodern art that critiques meaning, authority, and tradition. Themes of nihilism appear in films, Fight Club and The Big Lebowski, music, punk and metal, and literature, Lovecraft's cosmic horror. Psychology and personal growth. Can lead to existential depression but also to personal freedom. Viktor Frankl, existential psychologist, argued that even in a meaningless universe, humans can create personal purpose, man's search for meaning. Some people find solace in nihilism, seeing it as a way to live without fear of judgment. Technology and AI ethics. Postmodern nihilism questions whether human knowledge can truly understand AI and technological progress. Some transhumanist movements embrace nihilist perspectives, arguing that human existence is arbitrary and should be transcended. Final thought. Is nihilism destructive or liberating? It depends on how one responds to it. Nihilism can lead to despair, destruction, or indifference, but it can also lead to freedom, creativity, and new ways of thinking. Nietzsche feared that nihilism, if not overcome, would lead to cultural decay. Camus suggested that even in an absurd world, humans could find joy in the struggle. Nihilism and existentialism, similarities and differences. While nihilism and existentialism share themes of meaninglessness, they differ in response. Similarities. Both recognize the lack of inherent meaning in the universe. Both reject external authority as a source of purpose. Both engage with themes of alienation, freedom, and responsibility. Differences. Nihilism often results in despair or apathy, believing meaning is impossible. Existentialism, especially in Sartre and Camus, argues that humans can create their own meaning through personal choices and actions. Nietzsche's nihilism called for the overcoming of meaninglessness, while existentialism seeks active engagement with it. That concludes the etymology of the term nihilism, presented to you by Arabella. I hope to see you soon in the next video. Please like, share, and if you have not already done so, consider subscribing to this channel.